Thank you so very much, Mr. President, members of the board, honors guests, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, our graduates. What an important day, achievement, and personal milestone. My heartfelt congratulations to every one of you. I believe your dreams can come true, your visions realized, and that each one of you has the ability to accomplish things in your life far beyond your wildest dreams. Why? Because it happened to me. I thought it might be helpful to share my story and some of my key learnings along the way. When I graduated, I didn't have a dime to my name. All I had were student loans and a dream. I started Canada's first wine merchant, Mark Anthony Wine Merchants, at the age of 22 out of a 10 by 10 square foot office down in Vancouver. My rent was $29.95 a month. I called on the only potential customers at that time, government liquor boards. Not only did they shut the door on me, but established wineries in Europe and California weren't anxious at all to give their Canadian import rights to a 22-year-old kid. So it was almost over before it even started. Then I got a break. I learned that airlines didn't need to buy through government liquor boards, so I sourced better tasting and better value wines, and the three at the time big domestic airlines in Canada were my first customers and kept me in business. I skipped a lot of meals for the first 6 years, had the rug pulled out from under me many times, but throughout it all, I never gave up. I persevered relentlessly because I had a larger dream, an outrageous dream, to build one of the world's 10 most recognized wineries, and to do this in, at the time, a completely unknown region, the Okanagan Valley in Canada, a country not even thought of as a wine producer at the time. There were only 5 wineries in the Okanagan back then, and the overall quality was disastrous. Instead of growing European vinifera grape varieties needed to make quality wines, this valley was covered in mostly low-quality hybrids. It was impossible to make wine of any real quality from most of the existing vineyards. But there were many more obstacles to overcome in the early days, starting out with the fact I didn't have a penny to my name, and owning a winery is a very capital-intensive and extremely long-term investment. Not surprisingly, no one believed in my outrageous dream, let alone was prepared to invest, so the only option I had was to self-finance. I had to think of creative ways to build new businesses that would produce the cash flow needed to finance my winery dream. I had no idea that in order to realize this vision, I would end up building other businesses and a company that today has sales over $500 million and hundreds of employees in the United States and across Canada. My dream had been a simple one. It was just to build a winery here in the Okanagan and make wines that could stand next to the best in the world. The result was far beyond anything I could have imagined. By the age of 31, we had built an extremely successful wine merchant business across the country. I focused on what consumers wanted at that time, better tasting, affordable wines, and it worked. Mark Anthony became the company international wine suppliers wanted to work with. Well, now came the time to risk it all, to realize my dream, and that meant borrowing everything I could, putting everything on the line to purchase one of the 5 wineries in the Okanagan. Well, the only one available to me was a rundown winery teetering on bankruptcy, Golden Valley Winery, as it was known, in West Bank, which we renamed Mission Hill because it's on Mission Hill. And believe me, it looked nothing then like it looks today. A year later, the economy was in a deep recession in Canada, and we were paying 25% interest on our loans. The banks essentially shut down lending in Western Canada, and once again, it looked like the end. To survive, we had to innovate, to do something that had never been done before. We used the amazing fruit of this valley to create the Okanagan Cider Company, making the world's first ever flavored ciders, and in doing so, tripled the size of the entire cider market at the time. We also created and launched many new-to-world beverages and entire new beverage categories. We did everything we could think of to self-finance my dream to produce amazing wines in the Okanagan. The early years were challenging, but throughout it all, my key learning was, when you hit a roadblock, invent something new. Innovate. See all roadblocks as the opportunity to create new paths and outcomes as uncharted territories. In the fall of 1981, just after taking over Mission Hill, I was invited to speak to the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce. I spoke of my vision of dozens of wineries dotting the valley that would lead to an agritourism business with high-end bed and breakfasts and restaurants attracting recession-proof tourists, and all the supporting industries and businesses this would create. I received polite applause, and people wondered how long we would stay in business. Well, it took 13 long years until I knew my dream had legs, when out of the blue, Mission Hill won the trophy for top Chardonnay worldwide at the prestigious International Wine Spirit Competition in London. That was a crucible moment for me, for our winery, and for the entire Okanagan region. Lightning had struck. Making exceptional wines was one of the important aspects of success, but I also believe that someone had to build a destination winery in the Okanagan that would attract visitors from all over, just the way Robert Mondavi had done for Napa in 1966. We started building the new Mission Hill Family Estate Winery in the late 1990s. And at the time, I had no idea when we started construction how to pay for it. But it had to be done, and it's certainly motivating. Visitors to Mission Hill would need to leave with a lasting memory they would never forget. And the building and architecture had to endure, to be around and still relevant in 300 or 400 years. Well, we built it, and they came. Today, there are over 250 wineries in the Okanagan, a $2 billion industry employing 10,000 people. We have a vibrant agritourism industry, but we're not there yet. We are nowhere near realizing the full potential of this valley. 1,300 kilometers south of us is Napa Valley, second only to Disney in terms of visitation. Napa leads all wine regions in attracting high net worth visitors who are recession-proof and spend liberally, resulting in continuing investments in luxury accommodation, restaurants, and support structure. I believe we are selling this valley short, and I'm deeply concerned. The Okanagan is the most pristine, most stunning, and special wine region in the world. However, it remains virtually undiscovered internationally. We are shooting way too low. And in doing so, we're not only giving away our future, but our children and our children's children's future. There is far too much focus on short-term profits, quick lower-end developments, instead of thinking big picture and about the long term. Just think, where would Kelowna and this valley be today had the city brought in Four Seasons hotels instead of relaxed inns as our main convention hotel all those years ago. What other luxury hotels would have followed from around the world? And think of the tens of thousands of global visitors they would have brought with them to discover our magical valley. And how many of them would have decided to start businesses or build their own dream here? Short-term thinking indeed. Some of you will leave the Okanagan to pursue your dreams. But for those of you that stay, to truly be successful in our global competitive economy, you must operate at world caliber standards and expect that from those around you. People loosely use the phrase world class. It's not easy. First, you have to travel, experience, and study a place like Napa to understand what it really takes to be on the world stage in order for us to become the Napa of the North. No other wine region in the world has the gift of our pristine environment, unique regional terroir, and the potential to be the next hot spot to visit to attract upscale visitors from around the world. And that's where all the upside is. Far more opportunities and higher incomes, higher standard of living for you and your family, a valley where the smartest and best will want to stay because they see amazing opportunities here to advance themselves. But that can only be realized if we are committed to truly being world class instead of just settling. Perseverance, continuously innovating, and always raising the bar is what it takes to set you apart and change the world. Today I remain committed to continuously raising the bar. There is no other option. We recently started a small artisanal winery down in Oliver, Checkmate Artisanal Winery, to make the highest end Le Montrachet Burgundian-like $130 a bottle Okanagan Chardonnay. No one makes these types of wines in North America. And instead of holding our Checkmate launch event at the winery, or in Vancouver, or in Toronto, we held the world premiere of an Okanagan winery at the hottest Michelin-starred chef's newest restaurant in New York City, the media capital of the world. The audience were 70 environmental journalists and key wine writers from outlets such as the New Yorker magazine, CNBC, Popular Science, the Wine Spectator, and many others. With us to present was the world's most preeminent scientist and researcher on climate change and viticulture, an American professor who contributed to the 2008 Nobel Peace Prize awarded for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Our message was groundbreaking, shining a light on a subject that has not been written about or rarely even spoken about in the wine industry, the fact that climate change has now made it impossible to produce sophisticated Chardonnays in the Napa Valley. The Okanagan Valley is now in the magical climate zone for Chardonnay. And we proved that by tasting Napa's highest end $130 US a bottle Chardonnays against our 5 different Checkmate Chardonnays, and there was no comparison. Our Okanagan wines won hands down. And the same goes for Pinot Noir with our still in construction Martin's Lane Winery across the lake from Mission Hill. When it officially opens next spring, it will be a true contemporary architectural statement and one of the technologically most advanced wineries in the world. You see, I believe we can make the Okanagan famous for Pinot Noir, the most difficult to make red wine as well. And that too will attract the international elite. To achieve these quality wines, as you heard, we farm 95% of all our own grapes, a clear differentiator for our wineries. And I'm very proud that we still remain an entirely family-owned company. Bottom line, have a dream. Believe in yourself. And then never let anyone take it from you. Guard it with your life. And never settle. Never compromise your integrity. And most importantly, realize it's not just about making money. It's about making a difference. Making money is the byproduct of doing something you love, something you're incredibly good at. Instead, plan to leave a legacy, something that outlasts you, so that your life leaves a lasting impression and makes an impact. It's much more fulfilling. Rest assured there will be failures along the way, but remember, what looks like a failure at the time is actually a learning. There's always a silver lining in something going wrong. Failures are breakthroughs in disguise. And let me leave you with one final thought. A small team can change the world. We've seen it time and time again. It only takes a dream realized to accomplish what others thought was impossible. You can do it. Thank you. All the very, very best for your futures. And thank you to Okanagan College, President, for this great honor.